The afternoon light, thin and golden, filtered through the lace curtains of Helen Hayes's modest living room in Crescent Harbor, casting delicate patterns across the worn pages of her book. At 63, Helen had learned to find peace in the architecture of simple moments. Her reading glasses perched on her nose, she lost herself in a well-loved novel. The small coastal town a refuge she had clung to for nearly 2 decades. It had been her sanctuary ever since that terrible day in 1981 when the world had swallowed her 20-year-old son, Zane, the brilliant ethereal vocalist of the band Crimson Fireline. The sharp metallic ring of the kitchen phone shattered the tranquility. Helen sighed, carefully marking her page before rising. Her joints protested with a series of quiet clicks as she made her way to the kitchen, the linoleum cool beneath her slippered feet. "Hello," she answered, expecting a telemarketer. "Mrs. Hayes?" The voice was formal, official. "This is Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the United States Navy. I'm calling with the Crescent Harbor Police Department regarding your son, Zane Hayes." Helen's breath caught. After 19 years, the silence had become a constant. She had stopped expecting these calls. "What is this about?" "Ma'am, we've recovered what we believe to be the private jet your son and his band were on when they disappeared. We need you to come to Port Holston Naval Base." The words hit her like a physical blow. Helen gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, her knuckles turning a bloodless white. "I don't have time for pranks," she said, her voice sharp as broken glass. "My son disappeared 19 years ago." She slammed the receiver down, her hands trembling. The grief she had worked so hard to bury now threatened to break through the dam. She hadn't just lost Zane. Shortly after, the unbearable strain had shattered her husband, Malcolm. Taken to a mental ward, he was released 5 years later, a ghost of the man he'd been, retreating into a quiet, isolated life. The stress had changed him completely. The phone rang again, insistent. She let it ring 6 times before snatching it up. "I told you." "Mrs. Hayes, please don't hang up." It was a woman's voice, calm and professional. "I'm FBI Agent Dana Truitt. I understand this is difficult, but we have indeed recovered the aircraft. The Navy wasn't pranking you. We need you at the base." The wall of her composure finally crumbled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'll come." Moving through her small house mechanically, she chose a simple navy dress. As she walked toward the train station, a familiar car pulled over. The window rolled down, revealing the weathered, grief-etched faces of Patricia and Donald Maddox. "Helen?" Patricia's voice was thick with emotion. "Are you heading to Port Holston too?" Helen nodded, unable to speak. Their son, Trent, had been the flamboyant bass guitarist in Crimson Fireline. "Come with us," Donald offered. Helen gratefully settled into the back seat. Patricia turned to face her. "The Kleins are on their way too, Derek's aunt and uncle, and the Marinos, Ricky's cousins. So much time has passed." The drive was a journey through a landscape of tense silence. At Port Holston Naval Base, the scene was one of overwhelming, organized chaos. Agent Dana Truitt met them, her badge gleaming. She was younger than Helen had expected, with sharp, intelligent eyes. "Thank you all for coming," she said, leading them to an open, cordoned-off field. Helen's breath caught. It was the exact jet plane from Malcolm's photographs, the ones he'd taken to memorialize what he'd called their shooting star career. Now the plane sat before them, a ghost resurrected from the abyss. Rust streaked its once white fuselage like dried blood. Seaweed hung from the wings like macabre mourning shrouds. Dr. Martinez, the lead expedition scientist, stepped forward. "We were on a deep-sea ecological expedition. Our sonar picked up unusual metallic reflections at 12,000 feet. The wreck was surprisingly intact. At these depths, bodies decompose much slower. It's plausible they're still identifiable." Helen's eyes found them then. Several body bags arranged respectfully on tarps. Her heart clenched. "Please, we need to see," Patricia Maddox pleaded. An officer carefully unzipped the first bag. Patricia's wail pierced the air, a raw, primal sound of a mother's agony. "Trent, my baby." Even after 19 years, the red leopard print pants were unmistakable. The second bag revealed Derek Clean, his signature leather vest and distinctive belt buckle confirming his identity. His aunt and uncle collapsed against each other, sobbing. The remaining bags contained men none of them recognized, dressed in the deteriorated remains of expensive suits. "The boys were supposed to meet with an international record label," Helen said quietly. "My husband was their manager, but he rarely shared details." A forensics technician looked up sharply. "Gunshot wounds," he announced. "All victims show evidence of gunfire." Agent Truitt's expression hardened. Then something very bad happened in the air. The absence of the pilot suggests the plane was set to autopilot and he parachuted out. A desperate spark of hope ignited in Helen's chest. Zane and Ricky's bodies aren't here. Maybe there's a chance they're still alive. "It's possible," the agent conceded. "We're changing this from a missing persons case to a criminal investigation." The press arrived like a flock of vultures. When Helen's turn came, she stood before the cameras, her voice steady. "I had lost all hope," she admitted. "But with this new evidence, I pray the police will find something more." She looked directly into the camera, a mother's plea. "Zane, if you're watching this, please come back to me. Come home." When the interviews concluded, a police officer escorted her home. As they drove away, she caught sight of the plane one last time. 19 years. It had lain in the ocean's depths, keeping its terrible secrets. Now those secrets were surfacing. Inside her hallway, Helen pressed her back against the closed front door and finally let go. The tears came in great, heaving sobs, a torrent of 19 years of grief pouring out. After a long while, she pulled herself together and made her way to the small study where her ancient computer sat. She navigated to an old Usenet forum for families of missing persons, a place she hadn't visited in years. Her fingers trembled as she typed. "They found the plane. 2 of the boys were inside, shot dead. My Zane wasn't there. I don't know what to think." Responses came quickly, a mix of prayer and caution. "Helen, after 19 years, please protect your heart." She lost track of time until panic shot through her. Her doctor's appointment was in 45 minutes. She also needed to see Malcolm. He deserved to know. She grabbed her purse and hurried out, only to see the bus pulling away from the stop. 40 minutes until the next one. A man stood at the far end of the shelter, watching her intently. He was perhaps 50, wearing a faded jacket, and his stare made her deeply uncomfortable. "Saw you on the news," he said flatly, his eyes cold. "Your son. Thought he'd be dead by now." Helen recoiled. "What is your problem?" The man simply boarded another bus, his menacing stare fixed on her through the window until it turned a corner. Shaken, Helen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the coastal breeze. The encounter felt wrong, predatory. She decided to walk to the payphone at the supermarket to call Malcolm. After a tense conversation in which she persuaded him to listen, she promised to visit him after her appointment. As she hung up, her blood ran cold. The same man from the bus stop stood directly behind her, having appeared as silently as a shadow. "What?" he said rudely when she gasped. Helen didn't answer. She walked away quickly, but his eyes followed her every move. This wasn't a coincidence. Fleeing into the relative safety of the crowded supermarket, she found her own face staring back at her from a wall of televisions in the electronics section. The news was already broadcasting her plea. "Please give the lady some space," a firm voice commanded as a small crowd of onlookers gathered. Helen looked up hopefully, but it was him. The man from the bus stop pushed through the crowd and gripped her wrist, his hold like iron. He pulled her toward an emergency stairwell, pushed the door open, and dragged her inside. "Why are you following me?" Helen demanded, wrenching her hand free. "I'm here to deliver a message." The man's expression was cold, professional. He stepped closer, backing her against the concrete wall. "If you talk to anyone about this, police, FBI, anyone, it'll be the end of everything." In one swift motion, he pressed the hard metallic shape of a gun against her stomach. "Please," she whispered, terror flooding her. "If you know where my son is, you talk. You can wave that chance goodbye," he hissed. "The man who sent me isn't gracious." "How do I know you know anything about Zane?" Helen's mind raced. The man studied her, then spoke quietly, his voice a low poison. "The lighthouse keeper's daughter waits by the shore, counting stars that fell before." Helen's blood turned to ice. Those were lyrics from an unfinished song of Zane's. Only she had ever heard them. "We know everything," the man continued. "We've been watching for years." "My son, he's really alive?" Her voice cracked with a terrible, fragile hope. "Keep your mouth shut," the man warned, stepping back. "We'll talk again. But if you're reckless, bad things will happen. To you and to your boy." He turned and descended the stairs, his footsteps echoing into silence. Helen collapsed against the wall, trembling violently. He was alive. After all this time, he was alive. The doctor's appointment was a blur. All Helen could think about was the man's threat and those impossible lyrics. When she emerged from the hospital, she stood at the bus stop, torn. Across the street, a dark sedan idled. The man from the supermarket sat behind the wheel, gesturing her over. Against every instinct, she crossed the road. "Get in the back," he ordered. The locks clicked shut the moment she was inside. "I know you were planning to visit your husband," the man said, pulling into traffic. "Can't let that happen." He tossed a pair of handcuffs onto the seat. "Put these on." "I will not." In one fluid motion, the man turned, grabbed her wrists, and snapped the cuffs on. "Make a sound, and I'll kill you right here." Terror paralyzed her. They drove for hours, leaving Crescent Harbor for narrow roads lined with towering pines. He turned onto a dirt track, stopping at a small, isolated cabin. "The police will look for me," Helen said, her voice shaking. "I can and I will keep you here," he replied, taping her mouth shut before stepping outside to make a call. When he returned, he opened a hidden compartment in the wall, revealing several small, plastic-wrapped packages of white powder. He ripped the tape from her mouth. "What is that?" she gasped. "Those are drugs." "You need to swallow these," he said. "No, I won't. Kill me if you must." "My name is Edric Canvo," he said calmly. "I have business with your son. If you ever want to see him, you'll do exactly as I say." He pressed his gun to her temple. "You swallow these or I pull this trigger. 3 seconds. 1, 2. With shaking hands, Helen swallowed the 4 packages one by one. Edric then gave her a pill bottle. "Take these. They'll help keep the packages intact." He recuffed her and tied her to a chair. "Someone will come for you soon. Keep quiet and you'll see your boy." Time lost all meaning. Through a drugged haze, she heard an approaching vehicle. "Time to go," Edric's voice echoed from far away. He pulled her upright. Outside, men with hard, weathered faces stood by a large truck speaking rapid Spanish. One grunted, "Vieja," and pushed her toward a hidden compartment in the truck's interior wall. "Get in. Stay quiet." Inside, in the darkness, she could make out the shapes of other people. All young women, their eyes hollow and silent. The realization hit her even through the fog. Human trafficking. The door closed, plunging them into absolute darkness. After what felt like days, the truck stopped. The secret panel opened to blinding lights. A massive man with Slavic features herded them into a warehouse. One by one, the women were taken to a room with an X-ray machine. When Helen's turn came, a man with a grotesquely disfigured face handed her a cup of bitter liquid. "Drink, to pass packages." He grabbed her arm, his fingers digging deep. "I take old woman to Bruno, he deal with her." He dragged her down a series of dim corridors to a black door which opened onto a staircase descending into darkness. The stench of a slaughterhouse rose to meet them. At the bottom was another door. He shoved her through. The room was red with something that was not paint. In the center, 3 women knelt, blindfolded. A man stood with his back to them, a gun raised. "Gerald, wait!" the broken-faced man called out. The man called Gerald turned, and Helen's world tilted. Despite 19 years, she knew that face instantly. It was Ricky Moreno, the lead guitarist of Crimson Fireline. Their eyes met. Recognition flashed in his, followed immediately by alarm. "Get me a gag, blindfold, zip ties," Ricky barked at the other man. He moved with practiced efficiency, gagging and binding Helen. "I'll take her to Bruno," Ricky said. "You finish with these 3. As Ricky pulled her up the stairs, she heard the first shot, then the second, then the third. He led her to an office and knocked. 3 sharp raps, a pause, then 2 more. The door opened and she was pushed through. "Sit," Ricky commanded. Cold fingers removed the blindfold. Helen blinked and her heart stopped. Kneeling before her, his long hair streaked with premature gray, his deep-set eyes older, harder, but unmistakably his, was Zane. "Zane," Helen's voice cracked. "Is that really you?" "Edric kept his promise," Zane said quietly. Before she could respond, chaos erupted outside, shouting, gunfire. Ricky bolted the door. Zane went to a filing cabinet and pulled out 2 handguns. "There's a phone," Helen spotted it. "Call the police." "No, Mother." Zane's voice was hard. "This is our lives now." Heavy fists pounded on the door, then gunshots right outside. A different, lighter knock came. "It's me," a voice said. "Edric." Ricky unlocked the door. Edric Canvo entered, blood splattered on his shirt. "It's done," he announced. "This empire is mine now. Alex Sakharov promised you fame, but he never delivered. I will. I'll make you a real band again. You just funnel the money for me." "You used my mother as a mule." Zane's voice was low and dangerous. "She was about to visit your father," Edric snapped. "If she'd told him, he would have called Alec, blown the whole operation. I'm guessing none of you realized the police found the jet this morning." Helen's voice trembled. "Yes, I saw it." She turned to Zane, comprehension dawning like a black sun. "Your father? He knew? All along?" Zane sighed. "It's a long story." He looked at Edric. "I'll keep my promise." The 3 men began discussing logistics, body disposal, cleaning crews. Helen's eyes found the phone. While they plotted, she moved slowly, her fingers closing around the receiver. She lifted it and began dialing. "No!" Edric spotted her, drawing his gun. "Mother, don't!" Zane lunged for the phone. The line connected. "FBI, Truitt speaking." Edric's finger tightened on the trigger. The gun fired just as Zane threw himself between his mother and the bullet. The impact spun Zane around. Blood bloomed across his chest. He collapsed into Helen's arms. "Help!" Helen screamed into the phone. "Help us!" Ricky slammed into Edric, sending the gun skittering across the floor. In one fluid motion, Ricky scooped it up and fired. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Edric crumpled. Ricky grabbed the phone, gave the location, and yelled, "Zane's been shot! Send a tactical team now." At the hospital, Zane was whisked to surgery. Helen, after being rushed to a specialized room to expel the drug packages, was admitted for observation. Her heart was strained but stable. Hours later, Agent Truitt arrived. "Zane's alive," she said gently, "but he's in a coma. He flatlined twice, but they brought him back." Helen closed her eyes, a prayer of thanks on her lips. "Ricky told us everything," Dana continued. "Your husband, Malcolm, orchestrated the whole thing. On the plane, he revealed the plan. Launder drug money through tours. Trent and Derek refused. A fight broke out. Trent was shot. Derek was executed. Zane was spared because he was Malcolm's son. Ricky cooperated to protect his family. Your husband convinced Zane to work for the cartel by threatening your life." Helen wept openly. "My son worked for monsters for 19 years. "Malcolm is being processed," Dana said. "As for Zane and Ricky, it's complex, but we're emphasizing they were coerced victims. Ricky's cooperation helps immensely." After the agent left, a nurse helped Helen into a wheelchair and took her to the ICU. Through the glass, she saw him. Zane lay motionless, a ventilator breathing for him. She was wheeled inside. Helen reached out, her trembling fingers touching Zane's hand. It was warm. "My baby," she whispered, tears falling freely. "My sweet boy." 19 years of grief, of not knowing, all led to this. Her son was alive but broken. "I'm so sorry," she wept. "Sorry I couldn't protect you. Sorry your father did this, but you saved me, Zane. You took that bullet for me." She squeezed his hand. "I'll fight for you," she promised. "Your father should pay for his crimes, not you. You were a victim, my darling, my brave, lost boy." The machines beeped steadily, marking time in the quiet room. Zane remained still, locked in his coma. But Helen stayed, holding his hand, finally reunited with the son she had lost and found again. She had the answers. She had his presence. And now, she had a prayer. For one more miracle, that he would open his eyes and call her mother once more.